Hey there, this is Kevin Hutto, and this video is about the Infinite ROI Marketing Letter. And I actually recorded another version of this video and didn't like it, so it's at the end of the day, everybody's out of the office, and I am going to have a cigar and a little bit of scotch and have a little talk with you about the marketing letter. Hopefully you can bear with me here for 1 second. The reason I didn't like the other letter or the other video is because for some reason the screen capture recorded really strange, and it looks weird, and it's really small, and so it's hard for you to see it. And so I want to get through this, and then I'm going to do a screen share. My lighter's a little jacked up here. There we go. Okay, good. Like I said, I'm Kevin Hutto, and I am in, believe it or not, I'm in California smoking a cigar in my office, and which is crazy to think, but I actually, when you negotiated it into the contract with the owner who's right next door, and so I'm allowed to do it. So don't be all you social justice warriors. Let me just go ahead and tell you, if you're like super social justice warrior person, this video is not going to be for you. So you can go ahead and exit now before you get your feelings too hurt. As you can see back there in the background, I've got some images that probably have already offended you. Hopefully they have. Without further ado, let's get into it. So what is the Infinite ROI Marketing Letter, and why should you care? So this will do a better job of doing this. So the Infinite ROI Marketing Letter is a physical newsletter that comes to your house in your mailbox and goes over what's happening in the world today of marketing your business, marketing information online, entrepreneurship, especially entrepreneurship, online entrepreneurship. The headline on the site says, "Real world from the trenches, no punches pulled," often politically incorrect, as you can tell by the stuff back there, but always straight talking, insight into what's working now in the world of marketing and client getting, and especially client getting online for your business. And so if you scroll, as you see this, you'll probably see that I'm now on this page. If you're marketing a business in 2019 or beyond, obviously, this letter's for you. As you might have guessed and noticed, there's a shift happening in the marketplace right now. And if you're not seeing it yet, it's coming. And it's getting a little harder to close people. It's, your marketing that used to be getting you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10x ROI on your ad spend. The ROI is coming down, and ultimately, the tactics are working less and less long. It's getting shorter and shorter. And so, like I said in the letter, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but it's not going to get any easier anytime soon. It's going to be probably getting worse for the next 2 to 3 years, even if Trump gets reelected, which I think he will. And just so you know, like I said, I have this stuff back here in the background that you can see, or I guess if you're looking in the bottom of the screen here, I have this stuff not because I'm a big political guy. As a matter of fact, I think they're all crooks. you can't get to that level of politics without being a crook. It's just the way it is. But I do think that Trump is the best marketer we've ever had in the White House by a factor of 10 at least. And probably Obama was probably the next best one before him, that's in recent memory at least. There might have been some, like Teddy Roosevelt or something that I don't know about their campaigns, but Trump is a master marketer. But the reason that I have that stuff, one of those hats is make ads great again. That hat is make America great again. But the reason that I have those hats is not because I'm like, Mr. Trump guy in California, although it is fun to do that to my 16-year-old daughter. She loves it. The reason is because it repels people, and the people who are repelled by that are the people that I want to repel from me, because the all the stuff that is going on in the world today is not at all what I believe in. Basically, the powers that be right now are conspiring against the little guy. They're conspiring against the entrepreneur who wants to, pull themselves up, do something. I mean, maybe something gigantic and great, maybe something small. But basically, the person who is taking responsibility and trying to make a difference for maybe not for the whole, some people say for the whole world, but maybe just for your small world of your family and friends or extended family or whatever. But we get labeled as the 1%, the people that are, everything that's wrong with this country. And, this letter that you're on here is not intended for most people to like it, honestly. It's intended for people who are essentially not interested in all of the guilt and self-loathing and BS that is put upon us by the society of today and media and the people, the social justice warriors who want to make us the bad guy, that we're the reason that people don't have money in this world, and they want to complain and say that we're the crooks, when in reality we're the farthest thing from the crooks. We are the ones that are moving society forward. We are the ones that are employing people. I personally employ dozens of people at my different businesses. We are the ones who are paying the taxes that take care of people who are in this country, whether legally or illegally. We're the ones that are paying the taxes, not the people that are on TV holding a sign and all this sort of stuff. And honestly, I'm tired of it. I'm offended and not interested in participating anymore in that BS, because right now we live in an era where there is more opportunity for the regular person to achieve a life of whatever comfort you aspire to, or success or whatever, than ever before in history. Back in the old days, if you wanted to start a giant company, you had to already have means or connections or what have you. If you wanted to start a shipping company back in the 1850s, you had to have enough money to get a ship, and to bribe all the people necessary to make that work. Or 1870s, 80s, probably not 1850s. That was before the Civil War. But like in the Industrial Revolution, same with steel mills or railroads or any of those things, you had to have means to do it. Today, all you got to have is a great idea and hard work, and you can really create something. And so this letter that I am talking about here, wherever you're watching this letter is for the people who are wanting to build something, that people that are building businesses and trying to achieve something with their lives and take care of their family. And the reason I call it the Infinite ROI letter is, I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but ultimately, if you want to build something that can have that kind of impact on your family and on you, then that's what this is all about. I've been doing this now for over 20 years. I've done it in several industries, and the newsletter is going to be like an insider's look at my current businesses, my past successes and failures, lots of failures as well, and building these type of businesses and marketing systems. And ultimately, it's like my inner dialogue of what's happening in the world here. And it's not going to be like just this. It's not going to be this cleaned up, fancy inside of Forbes type publication. It's going to be, insider access, behind the scenes, real scoop, the real thing that's happening, all the mistakes, things I wish I'd have done, all that kind of stuff. So what's Infinite ROI and why should I care? So Infinite ROI is actually the name of one of my companies. And I came up with the idea a few years ago because I was sitting and looking at a business that I have that I did some work on the business back in 2006. And at that point, the business was 10 years old, and I hadn't really done a significant amount of work to achieve the income that I was still making from the business year over year. And so what I mean by that is that, that business still, that particular one, still makes over $1 million a year in sales, and pretty good profit margins too. And I spend about an hour a week on that business, and so it's there's this dream that people have of passive income, and I think that that's sort of the wrong goal to have. I don't believe in goals either, but that's the wrong thing to be chasing, because ultimately what you want to do is build leverage and build businesses that are leveraged. And like I can tell you, there's a lot of people that get taken advantage of and that have people sucker them out of their money trying to sell them all these passive income dreams. There's blogs about it. There's a famous blog from a guy who's not very passive at all in his stuff. But anyways, I'll give you a quick example, and this is in the sales letter here. And the reason I'm doing this video, just to cut into it, is that if you're coming from YouTube or watching this on mobile, I know it's hard for you to read my sales letter, so that's why this video. But ultimately, years ago, back in the 90s, I bought this course on a late night infomercial from a guy named Carlton Sheets. He's actually not, people don't know who he is as much anymore, but he was one of the old school real estate infomercial gurus. And I ended up owning like over 20 houses. I think I put 27 in the sales letter. It could have been 23. I can't remember. I've got a box in storage that has like a big box of pain of all these houses that I used to own. And I did good with the business in some ways, but man, it was not passive at all. Like I said on the sales letter, that Carlton Sheets is full of shit, man. That's like the line from Dumb and Dumber when he says that John Denver's full of shit, man. Anyways, so infinite ROI is that when you do something either with financial means, time, energy, effort, any of those type things, that you put in this real amount up front, but over time it becomes more and more and more, it trends towards infinite on the return on your investment of time or energy or money or whatever that you put in, because it grows and grows and grows, even though you're not having to linearly, if that's even a word, you're not having to put in that effort in a linear fashion to keep making the income anymore, or the return on it or whatever, And so I'll give you a couple of examples of that. One is when I was a kid, I hit 1,000 golf balls a day for several years when I was in high school. I went to this famous golf teacher in South Carolina, and he told me that when I started working with him when I was about 14, I think, when I started working with him. He's like, you got to hit 1,000 balls a day if you want to make it onto the tour. And I was just dumb enough to actually say, okay, I'll do it. And so I actually got pretty good at golf after doing that for about 3.5 years. And so in the sales letter here, I talk about the lucky break that changed my life. And what that means is that, like, so I'm originally from a small town in South Carolina, and growing up, we weren't rich. My dad owned a machine shop, which was, paid our bills and kept me in husky dungarees, as they used to say. And but it definitely didn't, put us in the country club. And we were on the side of town where, the guy that ends up playing baseball or whatever instead of playing golf, so there was no chance really that I was going to end up, playing golf, except that my dad's best friend, their family, him and his dad and his brother bought a local 9-hole golf course that was in the next, like close town over. And so I started from the time I was young. My parents were divorced, and so I lived with my dad. And so I started from the time I was young, actually going to the golf course from the time I was in my early, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old with my dad. And he was spending a lot of his spare time out there helping these guys. And they were, so from the time I was, old enough, well, not old enough to, I was driving tractors and cutting greens and helping airify and pulling stumps out of the ground with tractors and all kinds of crazy stuff. And ultimately, it was a great time as a kid to spend out there doing that. But I became a good golfer because I was out there, and then had this, started doing well with that. And then I had this sort of dual life going on when I got to high school, because I made it on the high school golf team. And, most of the kids that were playing golf were kids that were at the local, fancy country club, which was where, people with money were. And we couldn't afford to join it, not even close. And so having these two parallel worlds was interesting, because I was playing golf and gambling for hundreds, sometimes more money with these guys over here. And then over here, I was, playing high school golf against just this sort of country club crowd. And so in the first newsletter here, I talk more about it. And I have a story about how I've made millions of dollars selling Vaseline on the internet for $50 a can. And I tell that story in the first newsletter here. But years later, I'm in Atlanta. I go to Georgia Tech, and I'm working at this golf course up in Roswell to make money for beer, and also just because I wanted a place to play golf. And obviously in college you can't afford to be paying green fees or whatever. So I was working at this course, and I had a nice little side business going, hustling some of the members too, which was fun. But ultimately, one evening I was out playing 9 holes by myself right before dark, and probably about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It was after, my shift was over, and met up with these guys on 3rd or 4th hole, and it was actually on the back 9, so it's about 12th or 13th hole. And they asked if they could play along with me, and I said sure. I didn't care. And both these guys were big chops, but they were nice guys. And at the end of the round, one of them asked me, this guy Jim asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you give golf lessons?" And I was like, "No, not really." And part of the reason I didn't give golf lessons is because the assistant pros, there's one named Keith and another one named, I think, Mark Fralish, if I remember correctly. Mark was cool, Keith was not, and basically, it was like taking money away from them to be giving lessons. and I didn't want the hassle of dealing with those guys about that or whatever. But so this guy, he's like, how much would you charge if you did give lessons? And so the guy I had gotten lessons from in South Carolina charged me $50 a lesson. He was like a famous guy, which was a lot back in late 80s. And this was like in probably 1991 or two that this was happening. This was probably 91, late 91 that this was happening. And so he's like, how much would you charge if you did? And I said, $50. And he goes, here's for the first 10, and like hands me 5 $100 bills. And he's like, can we do one right now? And, it's one of those moments where you're like, college kid, $500 in my hand, hard to turn down. I was like, all right, sure. So we go over there and I give him a lesson. And afterwards, I'm like, what the heck just happened? Like I told the guy no, but somehow, I end up giving him lessons. And he was a young guy. He seemed old to me because I was young, but he was a young guy. He's like 28, and he was loaded. He had a black 911 convertible. He had a Acura NSX twin turbo, which was like a really cool car back then. If you're not old like me, you don't even know what that is probably. He had a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet convertible, which was like in the movie Boiler Room. His was red, though, not yellow. So all this stuff, right? And he had tons of money, right? Just cash all the time, just loose cash. And like we were one day we went and we were playing golf with one of his buddies, the same guy that joined up with us, and I had forgotten to strap his bag on, or somebody unstrapped it as a joke or something, but his bag fell off, and I put it back on, and there was a big wad of cash, like a roll of cash, probably, I don't know, 10 grand or something, just laying on the ground. And I was like, Jim, and he goes, oh, I've been looking for that. And he just plops it right back in his bag. You're right in the same hole. Like it was just, nothing. And it was just the craziest thing. So shortly thereafter, we're riding to the golf course one day, and he had been on me for a while about coming to work for him and being his sales assistant, and he would train me to be a stockbroker. And I was like, I think I want to see how this golf thing works out, and I still thought I was going to probably make it on the tour at that point. And I also was, not really super clear what a stockbroker did. And I certainly didn't like the idea of working in a big high-rise building. So I wasn't really interested. And then one day we're on the way to the golf course. I was riding in his car with him, and he's like, hey man, you want to see something cool? And, before I tell that, so sure enough, during this time, Keith, the assistant pro out there, just finds out that I was giving this guy lessons, and was just pissed, right? I mean, he was so mad, and he just starts giving me all the worst jobs, because he was my boss, one of my bosses, and he just starts giving me just the worst jobs ever. Like one of the worst jobs is cleaning out the ball cleaner for the range, because it's all that dank water in there. I mean, I threw up multiple times cleaning that thing out. It was so bad. So anyways, Keith's being a complete jerk. And so that was a little thing. And then he's like, you want to see something cool? And I was like, sure. And he hands me an envelope, and I open it up, and there's a check for $169,000 and a bunch of little numbers, And I was like, what the heck is this? And he goes, I had a good year this month. And I was like, just looked at him, and he's like, but I have a good year every month. Ha 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 ha. And just laughed. And I heard him tell that joke probably 5 or 6 times over the course of the next few months, And but that was his joke, is he had a good year this month. And it was his paycheck. And so I was like, all right, tell me more about being a stockbroker. And so I was like, I'll do it. And so went to work for him, and I got all this stuff in there about Wall Street and all this stuff, But ultimately, I worked for him for a few months. There's another story in there that I don't want to tell and have time to tell here. Ended up a few months later at Bear Stearns, which is like one of the, like at the time was the number 2 firm on Wall Street behind Goldman Sachs. We were doing like 10% of the volume, all the volume on Wall Street was processed by Bear Stearns. And so it was an amazing thing, being in a room where, every guy in there is making more money than the richest guy that I had ever known in the town that I grew up in. Like, growing up in this small town in South Carolina, I did, richest guy in town were like some of my buddies from the golf team that I became friends with from being on the golf team at the country club. Some of their dads, the local lawyer or doctor or dentist or whatever, and they're making 150 grand a year, which in the 80s was a lot of money, then I'm in a room at Bear Stearns, and every guy in there, because of the way Bear Stearns was, every guy in there, which was like 60, 70 guys, was making more than that every month. You couldn't work there if you didn't. And so it was like just this crazy, weird, like mind-blowing thing to be in a room like that and to see that the world is much, much bigger and there's much bigger opportunities out there than I had ever dreamed that there were in the real world. And so it was a pretty fascinating experience looking back on it, and during that time, there's all this different stuff going on. During that exact same time, I worked at Bear Stearns from the beginning of 92 through the end of 96. And that's also when the internet was happening. And by happening, I mean starting. It's like when people first started getting email and when you actually got your, first internet access, like with CompuServe and dial-up modems, and then end up getting, eventually AOL and all this sort of stuff. You've got mail. And then, so that's happening. I'm watching all these guys make all this money. And then also on the phone every day, I had to make 100 contacts a day, which took close to 1,000 dials a day of Dun and Bradstreet cards. So I would start with 2 stacks and double dial and hello, is Mr. Smith there? It's Kevin from Bear Stearns, Personal Business Matter. Put them on hold, hello, is Mr. Jones there? Same thing. So I get all these, over time I get these clients and they're telling me about owning your own business and being your own boss and how you have just in conversations with them, I'm learning about like entrepreneurship beyond what I even saw growing up with my dad, because I saw a lot of struggle, and those kind of things. And so, essentially, the sort of the confluence of all these things led me to, at the end of 96, there was something else. There was another catalyst to it too that I'll talk about in the newsletter at some point that's completely out of left field that you would never in a million years believe. But it led me to quit Bear Stearns. And another funny story, it's right before the big .com run up, so I was making good money, like $250K a year when I quit. But like the guys who were my peers in the training program that I was in at that point, like one of them made like $900,000 the very next year, which made it look like it was a big dumb mistake to quit when I did. But then in 2000, in like March, April of 2000, the burst happened, and then stock brokering changed and became fee-based, and everything changed. So I've done okay. But through the years, starting in 97, I've done all kinds of things: service businesses, lead businesses, had my own e-commerce sites selling things like airsoft guns and auto parts and all kinds of crazy stuff. Had an SEO agency back in the mid 2000s that had some big clients like Swiss Army at it. Sold a ton of stuff, sold my own information products in other businesses or other niches, not in this marketing advice niche, but other non-internet marketing niches. Like I said a few minutes ago, I've sold over like multiple millions of dollars of Vaseline online. I tell that story. Let me show you. I tell that story in here, right there on this part, depending on which one of these screens you're looking at. And ultimately, I've collected over, I've sold over 600,000 plus units of my own information products. I've collected over 3 million leads. I had one shopping cart account that had 1.5 million leads in it back in the day, and they had a big price jump after 1.5 million leads. So I started another one shopping cart account and had two one shopping cart accounts at the same time, just to hold all the leads that I was collecting. Funny story there too. Spent over $50 million on AdWords for myself and clients, over $10 million on Facebook ads in the last few years for myself and clients. I bought clicks on bought clicks before there was a Google AdWords on GoTo and Overture. Bought clicks on AdWords, I think the first day that they were available, because I was watching it. My buddy and I, who was also doing all this stuff, were watching it. And the crazy part is, and you know, as you can imagine, over 22 years, I've seen a lot of guys come and go, like, you know, start up and pop up and then pop back down in this, especially in this guru business kind of world. But the crazy part about it is that it's 22 years later. In January, it'll be 23 years. So that's just a couple of months from now. This is October 7th that I'm doing this video. And, you know, it's like, I just still love it. I mean, I'm not tired of it yet. I feel like I'm still going stronger than ever. I've got multiple things I'm testing right now and trying, and I haven't figured it all out. I don't want to tell you that. I'm not like some guy who is sitting up on the mountain with the ultimate secret to success here, but I, you know, have been able to make millions of dollars in sales every year for like the last 16 years, over 1 million in sales every year, and multiple millions, you know, like the last whatever. But the point is that this is like the best business in the world, and it's the best time in the world to be alive and in business. And it's pretty cool too. I actually own White Pines, the golf course I grew up playing as a kid back in South Carolina. I'm in Newport Beach, California, but I own the course back there. And it's funny, before we moved to California about 10 years ago, but before we moved there, we lived in a golf neighborhood in North Atlanta. And I bought a house on the fourth hole of the golf course and went into the pro shop. We joined the club, as you can imagine, went into the pro shop one day when I first was out there. I was going to play golf with my buddy Scott and Steve, and walk in, and who do I see behind the counter? It's Keith, the guy that had been just such a complete jerk to me all those years ago. And it was weird, you know, coming in as the customer and the member of the club instead of being the lowly cart guy that I was, you know, because all of us cart guys took a lot of shit from those guys in some respects. And so it's so funny because he gave me a funny look, like he, like, you know, kind of recognized me, because this was like 15 years later, you know, that I saw him. And holy crap, that means I'm so old. Wow. Holy cow, that's like 28 years ago. Wow. That I was working at that golf course. So he gives me this funny look and then completely starts kissing my ass like he does to all the members. And it was like, I don't know, it was kind of a weird but very gratifying feeling that that this guy now was, like, you know, I don't know. It was cool. So the point of all this, and what I was like telling this like roundabout story to tell you and to say is that there's an ROI, a return on my investment in time of hitting all those golf balls. And I don't know that it's infinite. It's definitely better than it would have been if I'd have made it on the PGA Tour, probably. I've made way more money than even guys that I know from Georgia Tech who, made it on the tour. And I know this. I never would have, if I hadn't been a good golfer, I never would have met that guy that day on the course. And I never would have had the path into Bear Stearns that I had, which led me to the next set of skills, which was making 100 contacts a day every day for 5 years, 4.5 years, which taught me how to sell, ostensibly. I don't consider myself the best salesman in the world, but I did learn a lot about sales. You get over your phone fear really quick or you get fired. And I learned a lot about that. And then, since I quit there, I've been a real student of direct response marketing. And I've put in my 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell thing. I've put in my 10,000 hours in direct response as well. And so when you combine like my natural kind of nerdy, technical engineer mind that was, I was at school to be an engineer at Georgia Tech. So I've got this engineer gear in my head. That's how my brain works. And then I've learned sales because I was immersed in it for 5 years. And then I've learned and taught myself direct response from immersing myself in that for the last, 22 years. And so it's a pretty powerful combination, and ultimately it's like I've gotten an ROI, and through the years I've bought, like course after course after course, and products from anywhere from a $7 product on the Warrior Forum back in the day. I don't even know if that place is still in existence. A bunch of famous guys who are big gurus in the high ticket space started off selling $7 ebooks on the Warrior Forum. I think they've deleted all their stuff now, but guys that have the same first and last initial, they were selling ebooks when they started, even though they're high ticket multimillionaires now. But, from that $7 book all the way to I've paid as high as the highest I've ever paid. I paid $80,000 for 1 year in a mastermind for a couple of years, and $80,000 a year. And I've gotten a return on investment on all of those, multiple times what I paid for all of them every time. But ultimately, getting infinite ROI on something is where you put in this work and there's leverage to it, and it lasts for a long, long time. One of the guys I studied for all those years, actually probably since like 2000 or so is when I discovered him, I think, because I went to the first event in 2000. I've got the binder right there. It's the 2000 Info Summit. Was a guy named Dan Kennedy. And Dan has just gotten on my mind lately because he's in poor health apparently, and maybe dying or maybe not, and maybe it's real and maybe it's all like the greatest P.T. Barnum trick ever. I don't know. But ultimately, I've been a subscriber to his newsletter for a lot of years, and I've just loved it. It's like I've learned a lot, and just the fact of getting something physical in the mail is a powerful thing. And I would get it out with my highlighter. I don't highlight my own, but I've got a bunch of his that are in binders over there that I've highlighted and gotten ideas from and all this different stuff. And my buddies many times have asked me to actually write a newsletter the same way that he did, and they said that I've got a million stories, which for better or for worse, I guess I do have a lot of stories. And I guess that's what happens when you've been doing something for so damn long. But I've always hesitated because I didn't want to like not do it right, And so I've been kicking around the idea for a while, and I've held off on it until now. But basically, I decided recently that I'm going to go ahead and do it. and create an actual newsletter like this. And like I said, I haven't sold very much in this space. I've had a few like real specific courses that we sell for people that are looking for this real narrow thing, like setting appointments on Facebook ads. A couple of those, and I got like into those because of Taki Moore, who we run his ads and I'm buddies with. And we've had a small agency, boutique agency that we run, but we charge a lot for that, like 20 grand a month is the minimum. And we have like some big guru clients that we run their Facebook ads for specifically. But one of the scenes that I talk about in the sales letter part is this scene in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross. If you haven't seen it and you're an entrepreneur, especially in sales, you got to see it. It's one of the best scenes of any movie about sales ever. Alec Baldwin comes down to this sales office and he says he's coming down on a mission of mercy from Mitch and Murray downtown to let them know about the new sales contest. And basically he says, first place is Cadillac Eldorado. He says, you want to see second place? Set of steak knives. He holds them up. He's like, third place is you're fired. And he's like, oh, have I got your attention now? And then he goes and he talks about ABC, always be closing. If you've heard, I'm sure you've probably heard of that. And then he flips the board and he's talking about AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action. And he says, attention, do I have your attention? Interest, are you interested? I know you are because it's fuck or walk. You close or you hit the bricks. And he says, decision, have you made your decision for Christ? And then action, he says, they're sitting out there waiting for you, waiting to give you their money. Are you going to take it? Are you man enough to take it? And he's like, there's a lot to it, and it's really powerful. But ultimately what he's trying to get them to do is commit, and really, really go for it. And they're blaming it on the leads and saying the leads are weak and all this stuff. And he's saying, no, it's you're weak. And so the point of me saying that is that, I haven't committed to doing a newsletter like this before, but I've decided in the thing, he says, have you made your decision for Christ? And I've decided that I'm going to commit to doing this newsletter and make it the best business building information, especially infinite ROI businesses that you can buy each month at any price. And it's going to include information that I've never shared before, mistakes that I've never told about, stories that I've never told, secrets that I've never revealed. Everything is going to be included in this little newsletter. I'm not doing a digital version because I want you to actually have to get it in person and read it. And also, I don't want all these things out on the internet. If you do a digital version, they're going to be on all these sites where people can get it for free, which I don't pay attention to those sites, but I also don't want this information there. I want people to have this in their hands. And so every month I'm going to talk about what's going on in the marketplace in general. And I talk about about what's happening with Facebook ads right now. If you're struggling or you're getting your account banned or your profile banned or any of those things, I talk about that and where you should be looking to go and jump. I mean, that's the thing, right? So I've seen, the move from like spam to Google AdWords to SEO to slap to, more SEO to Facebook ads to, all these different things that have happened through the years, like Groupon and all these sites that have come up and gone down. And so I can give you some perspective on where you need to be moving your dollars to continue to get an ROI on what you're doing with ads. Ultimately, the real thing is that I'll be talking about different ideas, things I'm testing, mistakes I've made. I have one. I don't know if it's on here somewhere, but like I made a stupid mistake one time and bought a domain without checking first to see if anybody else had owned it, and somebody had, and they had done some bad things on that domain. And because of that, I was not able to monetize it with AdSense. And that potentially cost me I mean, I hate to even like, you know how it is. It's like, it's hard. It's one of these things that's hard to think about, but a guy who I was competing with and I was neck and neck with after about a year and a half of us doing this stuff, me not being able to monetize, him doing it, he sold his website for $100 million. And I was like right there with him for several months, but I couldn't monetize the same way he could because I'd made this stupid mistake. And so I'll tell the stories like that and explain what I did wrong, but explain what I did right and all this sort of stuff. I'm gonna tell that story actually in next month's issue because I got to get it out of me because it's about to make me puke. But most of my businesses, like 90% of my businesses, are not in this internet marketing space. I've just been in this space the last few years. I got into it because a buddy of mine who has a drug rehab reached out to me back in 2013, 14 ish, and was like, "Hey man, I need your help." And we're, they were growing. They were doing 30 million a year in sales, but they couldn't crack the online stuff. They were doing it through these other methods. And we took him up well over 9 figures in the course of 2 years. And he paid me a lot of money to do that. As you can imagine. And that brought me in sort of into this space. And I'll tell that story at some point too, but it's not relevant here. But ultimately, we're down at the end here. It says, okay, so what's this going to cost me? And the answer to that is nothing. It's very simple. This newsletter shouldn't cost you anything. You should be making money from this information every single month, starting with month number 1. The price of the subscription is only $29.95 a month. There are screenshot after screenshot after screenshot of the guys who have already bought it, who, like I said, I just launched it at the beginning, actually at the middle of September. And so about 3 weeks ago, and people are like, I can't believe this. This is a typo. I can't believe, what this is. And the truth is that if you buy this and don't see the value and aren't making real money from it right away, then literally reach out and I will refund it and stop your subscription, because this is real. I'm not like a 23-year-old kid who just had his first success and is now an online guru. This is 22 years in the making, and I've never done this before. And honestly, I'm gonna stick with it because we've already got a bunch of subscribers. But if people don't find the value in these stories and these lessons and stuff aren't valuable, I got plenty of other shit I can do with my time than write this newsletter every month. Like ride on my boat or play golf or play with my kids or beat the wife or whatever. I don't know. She actually beats me, so that's a big joke. But anyways, the truth is that this newsletter is going to be a way for you to learn a lot, to get to know me better, and maybe at some point down the road I'll offer something else. Like I do have a couple of courses that they're too specific probably for your business at this point, but maybe I'll come up with some more or something. But this is going to be so that you can see that I'm not full of it. I'm not just making this stuff up, But also, I want there to be so much value in this, like I said, that if you're not getting 100x the value every month, then don't pay for it. Quit and stop it, and I'll refund you. But if you are getting the value, then you'll see what all this is. The second thing I want to address here is, nobody's asked me this yet, but I know that the world we live in today, with all this talk about moving, there's a thing that happened back in like 2007 or 8 or something with Eben Pagan came up with this idea of moving the free line. And why wouldn't I just give it away for free like everybody does? There's a couple of reasons. Number one is, why would I give away 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears for free? You shouldn't do it either. It's actually anti everything I believe in for somebody to give away all their value for free. I mean, that's you have worked hard for your knowledge and for your expertise, and you should get paid for it. But also, I think that, there's a million reasons why, but not the least of which is the people that get stuff like this for free are the ones that are least grateful for it. Like, I don't open emails of people that I subscribe to for free. I open emails of people that I'm paying to listen to. And that's at least part of it. I could easily have said, hey, this is I could easily have started a $50,000 a year mastermind. I have people right now who want to pay me for something like that. But the truth is I want to I'd rather have 10,000 customers pay me $30 that I could spread the value to more than to have, 50 customers paying me 50,000. But ultimately, the thing I would say too is if your first inclination is to only get things for free or to want things for free, one, it's not going to be the right fit for you in general. Just like I said at the beginning, if you're a social justice warrior who believes that my stuff is your stuff, then this isn't going to be a fit for you. But Bernie Sanders is probably giving away lots of free stuff, and maybe he'll write his newsletter and you can get it for free. Actually, probably not. He'd probably charge for it. But anyways, the last thing I'll say, and this is my bribe that I am willing to give you, is if you're coming to this from a YouTube ad, either I have completely offended you, at which case I doubt that you're this far into the video, or what I've said here has resonated at some level, but you don't really know me that well. I could be just making this, that could just be a green screen back there. Although if it's a green screen, the air conditioner wouldn't be coming on like it is right now. But you don't know me. This is not a one-off. This is not a one-off purchase. This is a $30 a month subscription, even though you can cancel it at any time without any hassle. Subscriptions are harder to sell. It's harder to get married to somebody than it is to have a one-night stand. There's more risk in your mind. It's a mental block to get over. That's why all these free plus shipping offers work so well. And I could create a $7.95 offer here and do that and work it up to where my cart value is, $35 by adding upsell, one-time offer, order bump, all that stuff, and then break it even. The truth is, the reason I charge $30 a month is because it's going to cost me about $30 in ads to get a subscriber. And then after that, we spend probably less than $5 to print and ship this thing every month. So I'll make $25 a month off of you profit, which is going to not change my life, but it makes it worthwhile for me to do it if I have enough subscribers. And so I don't want to have to hit you with a complex funnel. We run them. We have customers. I have a good buddy of mine, and he sells 1,100 free plus shipping books a month, and has all these upsells in it and all this stuff. And I can do that. I prefer to have real subscribers who aren't buying it just to get the one, but who want to invest in this and learn from it and get true value. But saying all that to help get you over the hump, there's an event that we just held here in my office here in Newport Beach in August. And it was with about a dozen people who are in a coaching program that we have called the Masters Club. And it's not a true mastermind. We're helping them to take their business up to about $3 million a year in sales, and they pay $30,000 a year to be in this. And this event, I talked about clarity in your business for 2 days, and we got into clarity about what your goal is with the business, like if you're in a growth business, scale type business, or if you're wanting a lifestyle business. We talked about the business model that they should run, if they're more of a delivery-based person, sales-based person, or lead gen-based person. and the plan that they would take to hit that goal that they set of how much money they wanted to make and how much money they actually wanted in their bank account at the end of each year, how much they needed to make and from the business, and do it in the simplest way possible. So we worked on that. Then we worked on their message, market, and offer. We helped them like narrow their market to the point where they can be very specific. Like, Zig Ziglar talked about being, a wandering generality versus a meaningful specific. So we helped them get very specific about who they're serving. And then we worked on the messaging to call those people out and the perfect offer that they would need to actually serve that person in the highest way based on whether their lead gen, sales, or delivery model, what they should charge for it and everything. So we worked on all that. And then lastly, we worked on the KPIs that they need to be tracking in their business to make sure they're on track, the roles needed in their company based on their 3 things, whatever they are, because you need to hire out people that do the things that you don't want to do. Even if you're going for a lifestyle business with very small, you can outsource these things these days. And then lastly, the skill gaps that they might particularly have that they need to up level their skills to be able to achieve this revenue goal in this company. Several of the business owners who were at this event says the best event they've ever been to. And these are people who are in other people's masterminds. And if you purchase and invest and take a chance on me today and buy the newsletter, then you get the videos from this workshop as a free gift. And if you buy the newsletter and it's not for you and quit and even refund, you can keep the newsletter and you can keep the videos and keep access to those. But my hallucination is that once you start getting the newsletter, you'll get hooked, because, like I said, people are already, the ones who've already gotten it are the first version, which we just shipped out like a week and a half ago, have already said, man, this story was amazing. This idea, they're already getting like super value out of it already. And so, like I said, there's a million ways I could sell this thing, and I can do the long webinar and all this stuff if I need to, and or a free plus shipping funnel, or, we know how to run traffic and we know how to build these funnels. We can do it. But I would prefer to have people making an educated decision who want the newsletter and want access to this stuff and want to get it, and ultimately this workshop that these people paid for and I had to ask them if it was okay to share this, and they were cool with it. But this is my gift to you for taking a chance on me. So if you get this and it's not what I say it is, like I said, I would say definitely reach out and get your money back. But I am excited about writing these every month. I've got the next 6 of these already planned out as far as what I'm going to talk about. And, I spend a lot of time writing them, or at least not all of them. I've only written the first one and I'm halfway through the second one. So I've put a lot of time into this, days to write these. And I want it to be, like I said, the best information that you get, period. And, I know there's 2 or 3 other newsletters out there right now. Some of these guys, they have bigger businesses than I do. I don't have an 8-figure business, but I've made more over my career than I bet that a lot of these guys will ever make. And but part of the reason I don't have an 8-figure business, honestly, is because I don't aspire to an 8-figure business. And I talk about that in the 7-figure clarity workshop, is that there's a point where you got to go from lifestyle to growth. And there's that weird thing in the middle where it's very hard to make the business fun. And I've been running a business that I love for, 22 years now. And especially since 2006, I've had a real sort of lifestyle business that I've been running that I'm going to keep running forever.
And I want you to have that. I want you to have that opportunity. If you want to sell information, market yourself online, whether it's just pure information like I do, or if you want to be a coach or a consultant or any of those things, or if you want to, have a service, if you have a service that you want to sell, or if you have a product that you want to sell, any of this stuff is relevant. I don't do a lot of e-commerce these days, although I do still sell that Vaseline, just so you know. It's funny, I've actually got a can of it right here at my desk. How funny is that? But I do still sell that, but I don't sell like airsoft guns anymore or any of that stuff, because the cost of goods sold made it challenging to make a lot of profit for the amount of sales you were making. But ultimately, get the newsletter. I give it my highest recommendation, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. And I look forward to having you as a subscriber and maybe meeting you one day. So that, as they say, is that. And hope you enjoyed this, whatever it is, presentation or chat, and look forward to talking to you soon.